is like, I think the biggest drawback, and like even like I'm guilty of this, and I think we all are to a certain extent, is we waste a lot of time on the water. Like if we're pre-fishing, like let's say for an event or whatnot, like we waste a lot of time. We go to whatever. I caught a 4-pounder here once, and then we go spend an hour fishing that area. We don't know what we're fishing. We don't know why that one fish was there. But like we fall back on it because it could be like one of our comfort zones, something like that, right? So
Fishing memories.
So I'm gonna talk about a couple of key things that I find over the years that helped me stop wasting time out on the water. Because I mean, the more time you're wasting putting your bait in front of nothingness, or like trying to catch that one that might be there or might not be there, we're going to try to get some insight into high percentage areas where it's like, okay, I've identified X, Y, and Z. Now there's a greater possibility there's going to be 2 or 3, 4, 3-pounders here, and just one random one off of the dock or something. And specifically I'm talking about largemouth because I'm not the best smallmouth guy. So. But, okay, so question is, who all has side imaging? Okay, everybody has side imaging, right? Everybody has side imaging. Who can honestly say that they utilize it to their full potential?
You.
I haven't used it yet. Yeah, that's right, you bought it. So like, for myself, I found a big, not boost of confidence, but boost of like productivity in fishing, whether it's not so much an event, but recreational, like stuff like that, just being out on the water, and that's really learning how to utilize my grass better. Like, what am I looking at down there? Like, what kind of grass is that? Is that milfoil? Is that cabbage? Like, is that coontail? Like, what kind of grass am I even looking at the side of each other? What kind of bottom composition am I looking at, right? So, I mean, for myself, like even just fun days, like I'm sitting and graphing until I see something that's gonna get me excited. And like by the end of this, like half hour, 45 minutes here, you guys, like I'm gonna tell you exactly what it is that's gonna make me stop the boat and start fishing. Yeah, I mean, I didn't win the biggest bags last year, but
sorry, Henry.
When it comes to the largemouth, I closed in on almost 2 dozen
Thought that was
fish
my
over
truck.
5 pounds last year. I couldn't tell you how many 3 to like 3.5 largemouth I caught. So like, I'm not saying I know what I'm talking about, but I feel confident enough knowing what I'm talking about. So, the euphotic zone. Who knows what that is? The euphotic zone. So the euphotic zone is the section in a lake, the section of the water column that the sunlight penetrates.
Yes.
The euphotic zone stops where the sunlight fails to penetrate any deeper, right? So that's going to change lake to lake, given water clarity type deal. But the easiest way to determine where the euphotic zone ends is typically it's where the grass stops growing. Okay. So the euphotic zone, because that's where the sunlight penetrates, that is the most nutrient-dense part of the water column, which, like nutrients, supports grass growth. From the grass, we support microorganisms like planktonic growth, crustaceans, security we got over here, Cameron.
That's right, boy.
Up to smaller bait fish to like the panfish, then up to the bass, right? So I'm gonna do a little illustration here. And we're just going to use humps as an example because they're easy to draw. But this could be like outside edges, this could be points, it could be whatever, right? So, I don't want to hear anything about my penmanship either. I got chicken scratch.
It's okay, my stick people are ugly.
So, no, that's a hump. That's hump, that's grass. Those are like those are little bait fish. So So like just by the picture, we can see what one's going to be most productive. Obviously, right? We've got grass on these two, so they're in the euphotic zone, which means they're going to be nutrient dense. Then we have forage. So like our bass are looking for forage, right? So let's say I'm going to go and pre-fish, and I caught fish off a hump once, and I drive out, and I guess I should backtrack a little bit. Euphotic zone's pretty easy to get on your graph. So when you drive out from the launch, just drive out to deep water, and where that grass stops growing, mark your depth shading at that depth. So you're like 0 to like 15 feet, let's say. And then you see not only the outside grass edges around the entire lake, you know where the most nutrient dense sections of the lake are going to be, because you have that depth shading out to where the grass stops. Obviously, like Lake Muskoka is going to be different because super rocky areas, and then you got your soft substrate where the grass can actually grow at. So like it's going to vary, but it gives you a pretty good idea. But so like these two right here, they're in the euphotic zone. We have grass growing on them. There's going to be nutrients, right? And then we've got this. This is what makes me excited.
Sorry, one second. Anyone want a piece of cheesecake?
I'm trying to slow down.
Yeah, there you go.
So if I go out and start graphing around, and I'm going to graph humps, let's say, and I'm just using humps, it could be points, edges, drop-offs, whatever it is, but I see this, like I'm moving on. There's no point in wasting time, going back to time wasting, for something that isn't going to be nutrient dense. Now, at any given time, there could be, 100%, there could be a bass, or 2 bass, or 3 bass associated to this. 100%, but there's nothing to keep them there. That's just a staging area between one spot and the next, wherever they're coming from to wherever they're going to. So to base a game plan for, like, say it's Thursday and I'm basing a game plan for Saturday, like, I'm just wasting time, because at any point in time throughout the day, that a little school of smallmouth or 1 or 2 largemouth will come in and then fuck off 10 minutes later. So like, for me to go out and graph or even try to fish this stuff, like I'm just blowing right past it. I'm only focusing on sections of the lake that have nutrients. So now, if I come out and I start graphing around and I graph a hump and it's got grass on it, it's like, okay, there's grass on it. There's no bait fish. So hands down, I could start fishing this, and there may be bass there, there may not be. I'm wasting time because it's a crapshoot. I could spend half an hour fishing that, and it's pointless. You know, I could graph over it in 3 minutes and move on to the next one. So going back to wasting time, if I graph over 3 humps or 3 points or 3 of the same thing, and I'm not seeing anything on the down imaging, 2D, anything like that, like these humps are now off the game plan, because it's pointless to keep trying to find that one hump out of 40 in the lake, when obviously there's no forage for the bass to be there. So the bass to be there in 2 days from now, the percentage is this small, right? Like it's not going to be productive. I'm just wasting time. This, however, so when it comes to bluegill and perch, right? We're specifically talking about largemouth here. When it comes to bluegill and perch, all the bluegill and perch need is a nutrient-dense environment, and they're not going to be going anywhere. As long as that grass is green, if you find them, yeah, hey, one day they may be on this side of the hump, the next day they may be 25 feet over here, like something like that. They'll move around a bit, but they're more or less day after day going to associate to that hump. Once they're done spawning, doing their thing, coming back out, as long as there's a food source for them, which insects, small crustaceans, microorganisms, plankton, stuff like that, they're going to be there. They're not going to go away, right? So this is going to give me, whether I catch bass in here or not, when I start to fish this, like this is a valid game plan to start going off of, because outside of the spawn, bass are only ever going to be where the food source is, right? They've got one thing to do, and that's survive. It's spawn and eat. That's it. Fucking eat. That's all it is. That's all it's happening. So this gives me.
Talking about the bastard village.
Well, I guess all of us really. But this right here is giving me. That's giving me a higher percentage, and when I come back in 2 days, there's actually going to be bass there, right? Now there's another.
Wait,
This.
one question for you. That middle hump that's still a grass hump,
Yeah.
do you put a marker on it in case, like,
No.
for a couple of days, you don't believe
No,
there's a chance?
no, because I've done my depth shading,
Yeah.
so I already know that hump's in the photos. And if I graft over it and there's no perch, no bluegill,
Okay.
it's off the list. It's off. There's no point wasting time going back to it. Now,
Right, because we only have 8 hours.
Is it the same way?
and okay, obviously everybody throws a hollow body frog, right? We've all frogged like grass mats, pads. Have you guys ever had a bullfrog
Yeah.
chase your frog?
Yes.
I comment with you.
Okay.
With you on last time.
Okay. And then, have you noticed that as that bullfrog, he's come full force as fast as he can after your frog, but he gets about 12 inches from the edge of the mat or the edge of the pads. He gets close to open water and stops dead. Right? Your bait could be 4 inches in front of him. He's not going any closer to the edge. Edge is danger, right? So if I come over and I grab a hump, or outside edge, weed line, whatever, and I see a school of bluegill, right? I'm gonna put a waypoint on it. Like, okay, we know there's forage here for the bass should be here. If the bluegill have moved out from whatever edge that they were holding on, there's a predator. The edge is danger. That is like, grab your shit and get ready for a hook set. Because whatever predator is there is actively feeding. Like that's what's happening right there at that moment in time. So like this is more like, depending on how deep you are, but right here, like if I know that those are bluegill, like I'm throwing a spinnerbait right away. I'm like, spinnerbait, let's go with that. And you don't need forward facing sonar to see all this shit either.
I mean, if you don't have forward facing, how do you help with it?
Okay, so 2D or down imaging, right? This is more 2D, like the arches. Down imaging is more like the dots.
Yeah.
And then, so when I refer to bluegill, there's 7 subspecies of the sunfish family. Here in Ontario, bluegill are one of them. There's like dollar sunfish, pumpkin seeds. They have a tendency to school up together. They all kind of act relatively the same, so I just refer to them as bluegill because we're bass guys and that's all bluegill, right? But bluegill, sunfish, whatever, they stack out and up. So think of like a cylindrical column. The same way, if any of you guys fish for crappie, the same way crappie will stack up on top of like a log, let's say, in 25 feet. Like they're up and out. Perch, on the other hand, stack up on top of each other, but they also spread out further. So like if we're gonna go grab a hump, I know just from experience with the bluegill, I know that those are perch. Right? And being out from the edges, like predators there. So there's a waypoint going on that, and I'm gonna be hitting that up.
I have a question.
Yeah.
When you say they're off the bank or they're off,
Off the edge of whatever.
yeah, how is there like a certain distance they're looking for? Is it just like
10 foot, let's say.
okay.
That's what I've noticed, like that 10-foot range, when they're out. Like, if I'm fishing an edge, and this is the edge type deal, and 3 hours ago when I came by here, they were kind of like in the grass and
Right.
whatnot. And then I rotated back through. This is 3 hours later, and now the school's out there. It's because something's pushing them.
Right.
It's now it could be pike, but whatever, right? Side imaging though, side imaging is a little bit trickier. And you need to have decent side imaging to be able to pick them up. But you can pick up schools of perch and bluegill on side imaging. So let's say let's say I'm driving along and side imaging, because obviously we're 5 feet and we're trying to get these on TV, it's not gonna work, right? We're gonna blow them over, probably chew a couple off in the prop, let's say there's a couple of rocks. So once in a while, like you can actually see bigger fish. Like let's say that's a pike. That's what a pike would look like on side imaging. When we're looking for schools of bait fish like this, you're not going to see the individual fish themselves. What you'll see are shadows casted out. Like that. So I know that those would be little tiny shadows. And if you got a 7-inch stream, like you're not going to see them. Like it's, right? I know that those would be bluegill and perch would be more spread out like this, but still casting a shadow kind of tall. So it comes down to the bass. Like the bass are only ever going to be where abundance of their food source is.
Have you noticed a difference in if it's perch, you get better than bluegills, or does it matter?
What I've noticed with perch, sometimes it's smallmouth that I actually end up catching. Which kind of like,
Makes sense.
yeah.
The longer one arrow.
But typically, like, I mean, if you look up, typically on the outside edges where the bigger fish are going to be. And I'm speaking about like perch and bluegill. Like we're natural lakes, right? So everything goes up shallow for the spawn. We're shallow given the, like, whatever, small if it deep or whatever. Everything goes up, and then everything, not the bigger stuff goes to the outside edges. So like you'll find bluegill and sunfish and perch up in a foot of water, up in grass. You'll find them strewed about, but the majority of the population ends up on the outside edge. And it's like if you spend any time watching Zona, the guys from Minnesota, like Seth Fider, which like you draw a line across type deal, like their gutters equivalent to ours. It's all the same thing. Hop on YouTube, look up summertime bluegill fishing, summertime perch fishing, summertime pike fishing, summertime muskie fishing, natural lakes. Everything's telling you to go to the outside edge, right? Now that outside edge, that could be 5 feet, given the lake. That could be 18 feet, 25 feet. Could stay some years, it's deep out there, right? But
Going back to Billy's original question, though,
Yeah.
too. How did you tell? The best part is everything he's talking about right now is on the console. So he could be standing up in front of the boat looking or whatever. And with often with co-anglers on my boat, so if you can flip the screen, whatever you want.
Doing a good job, buddy. Doing a good job.
yeah, like you don't need forward-facing sonar to see anything.
Yes, you do.
Well, perfect example is Lauren, when you and I went up to Seven Falls, and I was standing up front. I'm like, man, look like fucking school bluegill in there. It's fucking crazy. Yeah, it's like, how do you know that they're bluegill? And I pulled out a crappie jig, my drop shot, pulled up a bluegill to the size of my hand. Like, it honestly just comes with time on the water. Like that's all. Spending time on your graphs, just idling. And like I live like right on Cooch type deal, and my job's pretty fortunate that like I can just call customers from the next day and do them recruit, so I have like a whole afternoon off. Like I'm out two, three days a week on the water. Like not full days, but if I get home at like 3, like there's a launch 6 minutes from my house, so out on Cooch, and then I just go. I'll just idle there for fucking 2 hours until I see something like this or something like this, and then that's when I drop the line in the water. And like I'm feeling very confident with Cooch. Like I like Cooch. And it's all on the outside. So it goes back to like wasting time, right? It's like, well, why am I gonna waste time fishing shit that isn't nutrient dense, that doesn't have some sort of food source that's stable for them? Like at any given time, you can go fish at every hump in the lake, and damn right, like you are probably gonna catch a couple here or there. It's gonna happen. But the basic game plan,
Increase your odds.
2 days from now, or next week, or even tomorrow, like if it's not nutrient dense, and there's not a food source for them, they're moving in and out from it, right? Like, perfect example is, I'm gonna bring up Ken. Don't worry, I'm not gonna blow up your spot. But the last Cooch event we did, like what happened there? Ken was on one spot all day long. First time I ever saw him with a spinning rod. What, you were second in that event?
No, you want it.
No, Greg won it off.
Yeah, Greg won it off the docks and did it.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, like, Ken was on one spot all day because he knew that was a high percentage area. He knew that because I don't know exactly what he was fishing, exactly what he was looking at, but I'm going to assume there was grass in the area. There was
Johnny's Fish Market.
there was a hard spot, and I'll pretty well guarantee he'd catch a couple, and then he'd go quiet for an hour, hour and a half, and then he'd catch a couple, and then we'd quiet for an hour and a half, and then he'd catch a couple. Am I right? Yeah. He identified a spot that he knew because of the wind direction, the current, the nutrients in the area, the structure, how it's set up. He knew that that spot was going to keep him loaded. And that's why you see Teddy. Like, there's been events where Teddy will be on one spot all fucking day long, not moving. And he knows it's a high percentage area. And sometimes it works out for him. He comes in with a really good bag. He's like, yeah, they didn't kick on until 3:30. He spent all day there, but he knew at some point throughout the day, because there's a high percentage, it had all the ingredients. He knew that there were at some point there'd be fish there.
Alright, so here's the question. Did you spend all day there waiting for it, or would you go
Fuck
find
no. I'm not a bash on anybody who sits there like that. Like typically for me, like if I'm gonna go pre-fish, I'm gonna try to identify 3 areas that are like this.
Yeah.
Whether it's an outside edge, flat, like I want to see good grass, good green, thick grass. I want to see some sort of bait fish in the area, and if I can identify 3 or 4 spots like that around the lake, I'm just gonna rotate. Because eventually, at some point throughout the day, like I may get one here, one there, off of each spot. But at some point throughout the day, the chances get pretty high that I'm gonna pull up and the forage is moved out because they're getting fucking hammered. And all I gotta do is just drop something down there. Drop it. Boop, boop, boop. Like Seven Falls is a great example. That place is fucking awesome because it is an extreme example of this. Like pulling up and you throw a spinnerbait jig, top water, and the water just bubbles because you spooked a school of thousands of bluegill. Like that's an extreme example, but it's like holy shit, this is insane. But it's like I was out there twice before the event, and then I think like 7 times after the event. And I mean, just going on the rotate pattern, I got four high percentage areas that entire place that I just rotate. And you know, I fished one, didn't get a thing, moved on, fished another one. Like, man, this is gonna be kind of a slow day. Rotated back to the first spot again, and it was 6 casts, 5 fish, and it was my biggest bag I ever got. I broke 25 pounds. And it happened like that. It was boom, boom, boom. I was shaking. Like, it was crazy. Because, like, what I thought, like, kind of in my head, like, oh, mate, could this be right? Like, looking back through my notes. And then it's like, yeah, 100%, that just sealed it for me. Was that this is exactly how I've been fishing. Now when it comes to flats, I mean, like, let's talk Matchash Bay or that bay that you and I kick some acid in Perry Sound type deal. I mean, like you can go up to any back bay, anything with pads, shallow grass, cattails. Like there's a chance you're gonna get 1 or 2 type deal. But for me, it's like, if I'm not seeing bluegill in the area, then it's like, what are the chances that there's going to be a decent stringer for me here on the weekend? Like, there's nothing. They're moving in and then they're moving in. They're coming in. I may time it right, get the one off that dog or something. He ain't going to be back there. the chances of them being back there when I need them to be back there are super small. But if that little cove or thing is, the grass is loaded with bluegill, there's a higher percentage when I come back in 2 days that bass is still going to be there. Question here. Does this make sense, or am I just...
No, that's perfectly.
Oh, fuck, I wish Jay was here. Because 2 years ago, Matchinash Bay is a perfect example. Never fished it. We went in there, winter section, we fished like an hour, hour and a half, and it's just like, I was just like, something's not right, we gotta move type deal. So we ended up idling around type deal, and then I saw some bluegill hopping in the distance. We went over there. I think we weighed in 2 5s and a 3.5. But then we had a 5 that was actually dying in the live well because the grass got sucked up in the pump. So we actually let a 5 go. So, yeah, halfway through the day. It was devastating. And then the next 5 came like 10 minutes before it. So. But yeah, it's like even like these flats like Matchinash Bay type deal, like you can go just hunt a frog and just follow the contour around type deal. 100% you're gonna get one here, one there type deal. But when you're flying the food source, it's gonna have a denser population of bass. And I mean, like James and I this past year in there, like my arm was sore for weeks from hook sets. Like I'm not even trying to sound like a big guy. I'm fucking dead. It was insane. Like, and all we did was just move water until we find bluegill. Once we saw bluegill in there, we slowed right down and started picking it apart. And it was every time we slowed down, it was insane.
Now, if you had at the very beginning, you had 3 humps. You had 3 humps, you know, fairly close to one another. Did you hit all 3, or did you not?
I graph over them. But that's as long as they fall within the photo zone, right?
When you graph up your euphotic zone, do you go, so let's say if the weeds end at 12 foot,
Yep.
do you set your graph for 14?
Exactly 12 foot.
Oh, just, that's it?
Yep, I do.
So like, so with mine I can set it from like, I can set it to 2 different, like a minimum and a maximum.
Yep.
So if it ends at 12, do you go like 13, 11, or do you, like, what's your...
So I don't like to do, like my graphs do that too, where I can set like an inside or an outside type deal, so then I have a strip.
Yes.
I want to see from the shoreline out.
Oh really, how come?
Because it's going to give me, simply put, I'm a big fan of Zona, and he says in multiple of his episodes, just take a big lake and make it small.
Right.
Find the biggest spawning flat. If I do from 0 out to 12 foot, that's also going to show me the biggest spawning flat.
Right.
It's
Okay.
going to show me the biggest area with the most nutrients at all.
That makes sense. Okay.
So I mean, like honestly, like these lakes coming up. If anyone wants to know where I'm fishing, adjusted depth shading, and you're gonna see me there type deal. Now there is good grass and bad grass. I'm gonna get into this. There is good grass.
That was gonna be my next question. What
Okay.
define?
When it comes to largemouth, there's good grass and bad grass. So that's the bottom of the lake. Okay.
What lake is this one?
Fine, whatever. Lake Muckle.
That was funny.
Okay, so let's say this is 10 foot. Sorry, it looks like 6. No penmanship jokes.
Okay, Mark.
That's 10 foot. Top of water's there. And you see this on Cooch a lot, because Cooch is like, last year 16 feet was where the grass stopped growing. But up to about 12 feet, Past 12 feet, the grass is like this. The milfoil wasn't coming way up. It was just kind of rolling across the bottom of it. So for me, I've got a formula. I don't know if it's gonna work for everybody, but like it makes me, like I get a boner thinking, I got a chubby right now.
Lee, I see you look down.
So this is my formula. Okay, I do the depth shading. I'm looking for grass at 70% of the depth. Minimum 70% of the depth. So if we're in 10 feet of water, I want to see grass that comes up 7 feet or higher. That's my high percentage grass. Because if I'm in 10 feet and I'm just fishing grass like this, it's pointless. Mute. There may be, maybe a drag a jig around long enough, I'll end up getting a good one. But I can't formulate a game plan for derby day on maidens or low percentage areas. So 70%. 10 foot, I'm looking for 7 foot tall grass on top grade end. Top grade end, I'm going to slow down, I'm going to spend like a good hour there. But once again, as long as there's bluegill in the area, right? In a scenario like this, where it's just a big grass flat, and then we've got like a big section that's got the tall grass, taking the trolling motor right in there. I'm going right in. If I don't see bluegill in amongst the grass type deal, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time. Another key thing, and I know I'm going to kick myself in the face next year for this one ahead.
He's got a point.
Rocks. Rocks. Why? So why, when you look up like grass fishing, flipping, pitching grass, what's everybody tell you? Holes in the grass. Why are there holes in the grass?
Something's hard.
Hard spots. Could be sand, could be whatever. But typically, if we're going to be on the flat that's, let's say, like 7 square kilometers type deal, and we've got tall grass, 9 and 10 times, if you find a little hard spot, there's bluegill stuff there. It's not because the bass are in it, it's because the bluegill, the forage stuff. Also, too, like, you know, little craws and stuff, but craws also are in the grass and whatnot, too. Like, craws aren't just a shoreline rock deal. You find crawfish all the way into the photozone stuff. They're deep as well. They're out there. Yeah, honestly, that's my formula. That's all I'm looking for. Now, like, a lake like Skookog, let's say, that's basically a giant grass flat with a channel running up the middle. Like, the channel's an outside edge, yes, but this is where, like, depressions, like low spots, and like maybe high spots, ditches, any change in bottom composition that you're always hearing about, find the low spots, find the one thing that's different, like, you gotta get out there before that grass starts growing up. Like, ice out, go out and graft the entire lake, spend 2 days. It's the only way you're gonna find them. Because once that grass starts to grow, you're not gonna find those divots and low spots. Needle in a haystack, right? So like, when it comes to all the lakes at that side of Ontario, like Skookog, I've never been on Rice, but I'm assuming Rice is going to be the same.
Pigeon.
Yeah, Pigeon, like all the lakes out there. Why are Chris and Corey Johnson so dominant out there? You know, like they got a reputation for being dicks. They come in and cut you off, like whatever it is. And like what they're doing, Chris and Corey know where all these hard spots are. They know where these high percentage areas are. So if this is a grass flat and you're sitting here fishing and there's a hard spot right here, Chris and Corey, like you got no idea that that's there. You're fishing hoping for a bite. They're gonna come in there, they're gonna cut you off because they know that they're gonna get it. They know that they're gonna get that fish. They pull right in there, 2-3 pitches, pull out a 3-pounder, then fuck right off. Because they know where the hard spots are. Right?
I have a
Does
question.
that make sense?
Oh yeah.
Does that make sense?
So in your picture there, you have the 7-foot grass and it drops down to like 3 foot, but you have, in the picture, it's a clean cut.
Yeah.
Majority of the time, it's usually a a slope of the weeds and the milfoil that goes down.
Yep.
Are you looking, obviously, if you can see that, that'd be ideal.
Yeah.
But if there's a slope, how are you fishing that? So instead of having a wall there, if it slowly, like the weeds slowly, gradually go down.
So let's say, is this what we're talking about?
Well, no, even, yeah, so that, yeah.
Like basically where we got like a slope drop off, whatever, and the weeds are going down with them type deal.
Yeah. That's
So,
another scenario, but yeah.
This is where I really want forward facing sonar, because right now this is still my edge of taller grass. Right? I'm not. I may come out here and try this if I see fish out here. But for me personally, what I'm starting to gather, and I don't know if anyone else has done it, but maybe you get a bit of a backlash and your reel's loosened up because you've been pitching all day or something. Then you just make a bomb cast it behind the boat, and all of a sudden you got 4 pounder. What the fuck were you out there for? You're supposed to be in here. I have a theory that big green girls, like the 6, 5, 6s, like the big ones. I think they're way out. I think that they're sitting out there and they actually come into the edge to feed and then move back in. That's what I think.
Would that not go against your idea of them staying in a nutrient-rich environment?
They are in a nutrient-rich environment.
And even if they go down below it, where there is no grass? Okay.
Remember last year when we did Georgia Bear,
like
Jason on the road, and I pull up to this one island. Guys, this is the point here. This is the spot, blah, blah, blah. First thing Jason does is cast way the hell over this way. I said, oh, I got one.
This is what I'm talking about. Right? Now it could be that like maybe there's just suspended out here and then come back in or whatever, but and like we've been talking pretty well about largemouth all the time. But when I bring in smallmouth to the weigh-in, I'm fishing shit like this. And smallmouth just happened to be the active fish there at the time.
You brought smallmouth to a weigh-in?
Oh yeah. They're coming in from wherever they were. They're utilizing this as a staging point to move off to the next spot.
Does this change with the seasons though? So as we get past the hot days of July and August, so come fall or early spring after the spawn,
Yep.
does this change? Because the weeds, one, aren't as tall as what you're talking about at that point.
So decaying aquatic vegetation consumes oxygen. Everything in the whole system, the whole biosphere from here all the way up requires oxygen. So as long as the grass is green, bluegill will be around.
Okay,
That's it.
going
But
back-
now, let's say we drive past the flat and all the top looks brown. What you'll find too is if we get like some real like 40 plus days out there, 2 or 3 of them, the tops of the grass will all brown out. But if you drop down like an exposed hook or a treble hook or something, and you pull up like a big stem of milfoil from the stem of it type deal, it's crisp green. Like give it 2 feet down, it's crisp green underneath. Right? So
Okay, so when you're fishing these grass edges,
yep.
are you fishing it from your boat positions on the deep side of it, fishing towards, or are you going shallow fishing into it?
You don't need to tell them
Yeah, don't tell him that. He'll have to buy the book. He'll have to see the movie.
That's a dog.
Oh, okay.
What's it doing floating in the sky?
Yeah.
No, that's a shoreline.
Why is the water above it at 10 feet?
Why is that bird carrying a
Fuck
chocolate? You bring it back like really bad childhood memories.
I say you put it to a boat that Andrew has to go to art class to.
Hey, what should you do with the money, Andrew? Money your
I
parents.
told you, penmanship, fuckers. Okay, so this is a grass flat. Let's just say this is a grass flat. This is like, let's say this is a drop off out here. Okay, this is 1 foot out here, 15 foot. Okay? We've already idled past the other side imaging. We've seen the little marks, or we're coming back to it. We know that there's bluegill centered around that hard spot. The grass is nice and tall, nice and green. Like, how am I going to fish that? Because at the end of the day, there's a way to fish this that, like, I'm still guilty up to this day, but I'm becoming more aware of it. That basically the percentage I'm going to catch them is like this. Whereas there's another way to fish this with taking certain things into account. It's called boat control. Which is going to take my percentage of catching them from this to this. So most guys, including myself, I'm going to idle past it. I'm going to, oh shit, that's everything I'm looking for. Drop the trolling motor, boom. Hopping up the front deck, stomping around, and my boat's out here. I'm casting this way. Okay? So the problem with this is that's going to give me low percentage results. Because when it comes to, smallmouth to a certain extent, but mainly largemouth, like largemouth have a bubble around them of how far they're willing to move to feed. When it's time to chow down, that bubble gets a lot bigger. How often do we really show up to a spot though where it's like it's buffet time and there's a fucking line? Like rare. It's rare that we ever get to time that anyway. So most of the time they're not actively feeding when we're fishing for them. So what's happening here is let's say it's a 30-foot cast. I'm going to stay off. It's a 30-foot cast. That strike zone on the outside grass edge is about a foot. My bait's going to hit bottom. I'm going to start the retrieve, whether I'm swimming it, hopping it, dragging it, whatever it is. My bait's in the strike zone for 3 seconds. Unless they're actively feeding, they're not going to be coming out 5 feet because we all overwork our baits. We all do. We all overwork everything. Like that gives the bass a foot, not even 6 inches. Time to assess the situation, decide whether they're going to take it or not. And I'm just pulling it away from them, right? So like that's a shit way to fish it. The much better way to fish it, because I know that this is the strike zone, is I come in here and make my cast out.
You can screw over the co-anchor.
There's going to be some fish up in here.
No, I know. I'm just teasing.
I parallel it.
Yeah.
My bait is in the strike zone. Whatever. If this is a 40-foot cast, this is 20 feet wide. Like my percentage, the percentage of the chance I'm going to get one went from here to here.
Billy just said, oh yeah, the backload is on, but the reality is the non's got equal chance because he's still fishing the whole leader. Unless it's building any fucking back.
Yeah. Well, unless I have a tractor, you don't have a choice. You run back no matter what.
Okay, so looking at this exact setup, how long are you going to spend? Like, are you going to do multiple different? Like, let's say this is your first spot. You see the bait fish, everything lines up. You're chugged up. You're ready to go. How long are you going to spend throwing different things before you cave and move on?
5.
Like you're going to throw 5 different things in 5 minutes?
I'm making 5 casts at a high percentage area. Okay. I'm going to make 5 casts at a high percentage area.
What are you throwing?
Heads.
Okay.
That feels illegal to ask.
But then, because the bluegill could be out here, and the next day they could be straight in amongst the grass, I'm going in. If I'm not getting them out here in the high percentage area, even if there is bluegill out here, I'm going in. I'm going in, I take it slow, because I know that there's tall green grass, there's oxygen, there's a ton of nutrients, there's the preferred forage. The chances of those bass being in here, given all the rest of this, pretty high.
I have a question. We're pre-fishing. And say, do two options here. One, we got a gun on the office there on the structure. Come tournament day, are you gonna start with that angle? Or is the wind gonna come into play? And then the other question is, if we're pre-fishing, we caught them up shallow.
Yep.
Come tournament day, are you going up shallow to start going deep? Or are you still gonna go deep and work your way in?
Depends where I'm catching. I mean, at the end of the day, when we pull up over here, we're already on the outside edge, so I'm gonna fish. I'm gonna fish that first and then sneak up.
But if you didn't catch anything on the pre-fish on the inside,
Yeah.
you caught them all up shallow, you're still gonna go follow the same pattern.
Yes, but it depends. If I caught, let's say it's Thursday, and then there's bluegill all up in the grass, and then I caught them right up on the bank, I won't be coming out here first. I'll be going as dirt shallow as I can. Because me coming back through here to come over and fish this shit, I'm blowing out. If they're up tight to the bank type deal, I'm blowing out a lot of this just getting in there. I'm starting over here and then I'm basically keeping as tight and as low profile as I can. Right? That's another thing. If those bass are sitting on this outside edge looking straight out, and I throw a spook, 4-inch spook, 30 feet in from the boat, and they're willing to come up at a 10 feet of water to hit that, you saw a 4-inch spook. Another 10, 15 feet, you're not supposed to see an 18, 20 foot fucking boat. You gotta be kidding. They know that we're there. So here's another thing, is you asked about wind and whatnot. Like, if wind is coming this way, I mean, having you nosing in from this side isn't going to be an option. Because the wind's going to catch the back of your boat, right? And you're going to end up doing this over the spot, no matter what you do, you blow it out. But then there's also something to be said too, when you're coming up this side of it, there's wind coming this way at it, type deal. You're running that trolling motor harder, trying to stay on spot, making noise. Typically, if you're fighting the wind, you gotta stay a lot farther back off of it, is what I find anyway. And it's like, I'm not just reiterating what I've seen on like YouTube. Like this is like tested again and again and again. Like I know that they're here, I'm not catching them. Just let off the trolling motor, let me drift back into the 25 feet, do a bomb cast. It's happened time and time again for me, Ted.
What about tighter guys? Does that make a difference?
To a certain extent, yeah. I mean, where I find them the best is the milfoil. Like, distinguishing between milfoil and coontail is a bit difficult on the side imaging because they look very similar. And like, even if I held up milfoil and coontail right here, like I guarantee it, pretty well anybody would mix them up.
Yeah.
Like it's not hard to do. Milfoil tends to grow a little taller than coontail. Coontail can still top it. Cabbage mix. You got, typically the cabbage comes up a little bit deeper. So what I've seen shallower cabbage, but what I'll find is like you'll have your milfoil edge, like a hard milfoil edge, and then you'll have sporadic cabbage stems coming up. Which typically, like, I treat like a milfoil to a cabbage transition. I treat that as same thing as like a hard spot, like it's a high percentage area. That's for sure.
So just basically change.
Here.
That's what you're looking for, a change in.
First and foremost, I'm looking for bluegill.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like, it's that connection between bluegill and bass. When you really figure it out, like you collide, it's just fucking insane. And that's what I like about largemouth, is they're fucking predictable. Like they're real, to a certain extent, they're predictable. Now finding them on things, like catching them, is completely different. Like completely. I can find them. I found them all year long. 6 Mile, I found them. Freaking G-Pool, I found them. Even Sparrow, with your kid.
Oh yeah.
What is it? Did you catch last one?
We're on the outside edge, like right on the edge, because the bass, everything was in the grass, and every fucking 15 minutes or so, you'd see like a 3-pound cluster just come out, smash a bluegill, and go back down. I found using my little system here, I found all fucking year long. Catching them's completely different. I'm still figuring that part out. I really am. There's an adjustment I need to make, and I don't know what it is yet. But here's something else. How many of you guys cast into your shadow? Your shadow. Typically midday it doesn't really happen, but in the morning, later in the afternoon, I catch myself doing it all the time. So like, even let's say, here's my boat. This is my shadow I'm casting in here. And I'm thinking, hold on. I'm thinking that it's not sexual harassment. You can't prove it. It's art. It's like I'm fishing something that's like, let's say 20 feet away, and my shadow's casting out like 7, 8 feet, something like that. I think I'm good. I'm casting past my shadow. We know that sunlight penetrates down to a certain depth already in this lake. So if the sunlight's penetrating down 10 feet, 15 feet, 20 feet, so is my shadow. Like, what happens when we're out on a sunny day? Let's say we're in the park, we're playing catch with a dog or something, and all of a sudden a big storm cloud walks out or something like that. What's this? We all look up, we all do. You throw a shadow in front of a bass when he's just chilling there, that guy's spooked. And this is all just little things to keep in mind that will increase the percentage, like throughout the day, to the point that like you went from like, oh, you're gonna have a shit day, or it's fish and cough, to fuck, you wanna what? I changed my boat position, I rotated 3 of these spots, I didn't cast into my shadow, and the fucking bottom today. Which is like, I mean, that's rare. Somebody's catching them somewhere, right? And I mean, it could be a little thing like even just the shadow or the boat position. I mean, we all do it. I catch myself casting my shadow all the time. So I'm sure, like, the guys that fish with me, like, I'm always talking about bluegill. Like, I load up, I don't see any bluegill that we're going. They're like, fuck, load up bluegill. Yeah. I've been saying it for like 2 years now. Anybody's fish with me. Sometimes it works out. Most of the time it doesn't. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, okay, well, I'm pretty well out of stuff to talk about.